Uh, I'm Sandhya. I'm so happy to be here to be facilitating this session on uh, what really is team coaching. And what I'm going to be sharing today is a couple of case studies that I have been part of and what has been my experience in this whole team coaching journey. So before I begin the screen sharing, one of the things that I started off was being an individual coach. I'm a level 2 coach. Finished my training hours for MCC with Jaya. And it was a journey of really some beautiful insights, of a lot of churn within, a lot of learning, unlearning. So now I'm waiting to kind of apply for the credentialing, which I will do end of this year. Am I audible?
Yep,
Because it
absolutely.
just said my internet is unstable. Okay, great. So as I was saying, working on my journey towards MCC, I did my systemic team coaching through Coacharya. And then like I was telling earlier, I have been blessed and fortunate to have had a few projects where I've managed or where I've been a co-coach, in some cases individually managed a few team coaching assignments for large organizations as well as small boutique firms who really wanted to explore coaching for the sheer fact that they wanted the transformation to happen at a much larger scale, right? And they wanted more people to benefit from this whole intervention of coaching. So which is why today what I'm going to take you through are two case studies where team coaching worked wonders for the organization. Yeah. So kindly allow me a minute while I share my screen. Yeah. This is visible, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Shailaja. All right. So really, we're looking at team coaching for obviously enhancing performance. One of the major benefits that I have seen happen is a huge sense of collaboration and connectedness. Um, if you look at an organizational context, uh, there is a sense of team bonding, there is a sense of team spirit. But when you introduce a layer of coaching and a layer of team coaching, what that does is it aligns the entire team to one goal. And all the problems or all the possibilities that they could see become theirs, right? So that has been my single most observation or learning that I have seen come out of team coaching experiences. And as I go along the slide, kindly please feel free to stop and stop me for any questions or any clarifications, and I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. If not, I'll maybe come back to you with an answer as soon as I have it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what are we going to look at today is we're going to look at what is team coaching really. What are some key differentiating factors between team coaching and individual coaching? Now, we all know this, but I'm just going to touch upon this because at times it becomes important to connect the differences and just have that reference point. How has team coaching, in my case as a coach, been pivotal in for me to talk about successes of teams? And we'll do a brief introduction, or I'll take you through one or two case studies at a very broad level without going into so many details. And that's only because of client confidentiality. Yeah. Right. So we all know this. This is just theory where we look at the focus of team coaching is mainly to do with group dynamics. And there is a lot of group dynamics within teams. I've also coached groups. Now, when you talk of a group, they come from different functions, right? So while a team could be a homogeneous team, when I talk of a group, it's a cross-functional group which has multiple people, multiple stakeholders coming from different functions, but they are formed with the objective of reaching one goal. Yeah. Like I said, it's about collective improvement. And in my experience, there is a lot of facilitation that goes into a team coaching intervention. So while there is coaching, there is also a lot of facilitation because you're talking to people with different mindsets, different baggages, different outlook towards that same one goal. And there are a lot of times that I've had to look at facilitation as a tool or as a means to have that discussion within teams. Okay. Why do organizations today look at team coaching? Now, there was a time when obviously you had the entire coaching at CXO levels where the C-suite went through one-on-one coaching, but there was nothing really for the rest of the organization. And what was observant was that it took time for transformation to happen top down with just maybe 10% of your organizational strength having been coached. I think for the last 2 or 3 years, I have seen a huge surge where organizations come and say, let's look at the top level where they go through one-on-one coaching. That's leadership coaching, executive coaching. And when you look at L-1, let's have team coaching so that there is greater scalability of that whole transformation happening, right? In fact, I was also involved last year in a very interesting I would say, project where we kind of assessed how organizations fared on coaching as a culture. So I was part of the assessor of a team where we assessed organizations and we assessed them on their coaching culture. And I think that kind of threw up, and we had organizations of all sizes who gave in their application for this. This was through you Accelerate, and they had a coaching culture conference in which they had this. And what was interesting to see that almost all the top organizations today are looking at team coaching as one of the most sought after tools for having a large scale transformation done, right? We all know that cost effectiveness, definitely one-on-one coaching vis-a-vis having a group of 8, 10 people, the costing dynamics are pretty different. Culture building, I think you're looking at a group of people who, when coached, and multiple groups, look at the impact that it has on the organizational culture. It's huge. Scalability. And while you are doing a team coaching intervention, there is also a lot of individual and personal goals that are also being met in that session. So I've had coaching opportunities where, although we're working with a team goal, there is somebody in that team or in that group who says, Sandhya, I've always had difficulty in saying no, or I've always had difficulty in delegating, because for me, delegation is letting go, and I'm a little wary of that. So what happens when somebody brings up such an issue is that the entire team is free to come up with their own versions of how they have handled it. And thus, even an individual need or an individual goal is kind of assimilated in that team coaching intervention. Yeah. Am I okay so far? The pace, is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so two companies. One was an auto manufacturing company. One was an advertising company. One had almost 80,000 employees across India. The other had 80 employees, has 80 employees. Both these organizations had very different asks. One was that they had a cross-functional team set up. I think they had 50 cross-functional teams. So imagine each team had about 7 to 8 people, and 50 or 55 such teams. And we had to coach all of them over a period of 2 months. And they wanted the agile methodology of coaching, which meant that it was not one coaching session a month. It had to happen one every week, right? And the other firm, which was an advertising firm, is again, so while this company was an auto company, everything black and white, very structured, obviously they've been there for a long time. So a lot of processes were in place. And the other advertising company, where I also am the HR lead, was a completely creative organization. So for them, the entire world that they operate in is very abstract and it's very creative. So even the coaching intervention, and they were very specific that they wanted a team coaching intervention. So even those team coaching interventions for 5 people, and I did groups of, I think I did about 5 team coaching sessions in which were over a period of 6 months. The one very specific ask, or which was part of the scope, was that keep it as creative and as free flowing as you can as a coach. So these are very two different organizations, two different mindsets, two different cultures. And I'll just take you through what happened in these two organizations as part of the team coaching intervention, right? What were some of the common, and both these organizations had very similar problem statements, very similar. Most organizations have very, very similar issues or similar goals that they want to work with. One of them was each of these teams struggled to align to one common goal. One of the reasons for that also is because the goal was given to them. It wasn't co-created. So when you are forming a team of 6 people and saying, look, this is what you need to achieve at the end of 1 year or 2 years, that goal is given to them. And then they're struggling to find what is the alignment that they have, because each of them have their individual roles as well. They have their individual functions. And here they have come as part of a cross-functional group. This I'm talking about in the auto industry, right? And their reporting managers found it very difficult to let these people go for these coaching assignments because they felt, "Arey, tum hamara kaam karo na. What are you doing this? Ye kya ho raha hai? What is this?" So while we had a lot of scoping sessions with the stakeholders, yet the individual reporting heads of these people found it difficult to let their team go to achieve some other goal, which was something very different. Yes, Ritu.
Sandhya, so first question, so while the managers were finding it difficult to let their team members go for coaching, who was the sponsor? Was
The
it the HR people or
No,
the
no.
CEO or
It
MD?
was the executive director of this company. So it was a
Okay,
top-down mandate,
okay,
right? That there will be 50 teams formed and each team will have a common goal. But this team was not a team, it was a group.
group, okay,
So this group was comprised of people from different engineering, design, costing, purchase, and each of them had a functional head reporting. So imagine, while at a broad level, they can't say no to the ED diktat, but even then, the point was that, okay, what will happen to my function? And mind you, these were all people who were seniors in their respective fields in those departments, right? So
got it.
So the buy-in of those functional heads plus the alignment saying, okay, we've got to do something. This is coming from the ED. So when we started, the alignment to that one common goal was literally not there. They didn't even know what the goal was. The goal wasn't even defined clearly. There were no KPIs. And then we had to scope it out, because if you have a team coaching assignment that has to be successful, you need to have the objectives or the end result very clearly chalked out, which is the responsibility of the coach, the stakeholder, and the sponsor, right? So we did all of that. The team obviously didn't know each other. One, it's a huge organization. Two, they came from different functions to form a team, so they may not know each other. Yes, Sandeep.
Sandhya, I heard you say the responsibility of the coach as well to fix the goal. Uh,
Fix the goal, arrive at a goal, Sandeep. So before
okay.
starting off or before beginning the coaching sessions, unless there is sign off on the scope and the
Mhm.
objective,
Yeah.
yeah, it becomes so. While you may say that so your responsibility could also be that, look, I will not do this, or I will not be held responsible for this. So getting that contracting piece cleared between the coach, stakeholder, and the sponsor is why I say it is not the responsibility. Well, if I don't do it, then at the end of the intervention, I'll be completely hanging dry because they might want something else. I may not have clarified it, and that becomes a big
Yeah, no,
hassle.
so yeah, I understand between contracting and goal.
Yeah.
So you meant to say about fixing the contracting, not the goal
Yes.
for the session.
Yes.
Okay, fine,
But
fine.
also
Okay.
understanding what is it that the team is going to be reviewed on. So when you have reviews and when they say, no, we want to ensure, so this particular company was very clear that the goals had to be met by every team. But does the team know the goal? Is the goal articulated? Is there buy-in? So we had to start from that level. कि goals पहले define करो आप.
Mhm. Okay.
Which is why I said we had to do a great deal of facilitation and a great deal of working with the sponsors to even help them arrive at a goal which technically is not part of the coaching scope.
Mhm. Okay,
So there was a bit of pre-work that we had to do.
fine.
Sorry, one more follow-up question. So,
Anji.
is it that these 50 teams were newly formed and
Yes,
the ED thought that if they're coached in the beginning, they'll do well?
they were newly formed as teams, but they've all been working in the organization for a long time and they've all been from different
Okay,
functions. They were kind of pulled to form teams.
got it.
Yeah.
For certain new projects or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. And these projects
Okay.
were not long-term projects. ऐसा नहीं था कि it was a short 3-month project. They were looking at a long-term project because they were looking at some launches, they were looking at some new designs and all of that. So it was a big mammoth project. Yes, Rajesh.
Hi, Sandhya. So,
Hi.
as I understand, the goal was a diktat from the seniors, and there was no alignment amongst the team members to own up that goal. And
Yes,
then you did some pre-work and worked with them to have the alignment and maybe the acceptance also.
absolutely.
So, what happened to the directors? What did they, if the goal changed?
No,
If the
the
goal,
goal didn't change. The
the
goal was
goal was
fleshed
changed.
out.
So you made the team members agree to the goal that the director had given as a diktat.
Yes, because that did a lot of back and forth, because the team said,
Is
nahi,
that
ye
fair?
nahi hoga.
Is that
No.
fair?
So what happened was we were very clear that this was the pre-scoping of the coaching assignment. So this was all pre-work, right? So when the director said that, look, this is what we want to accomplish as the organizational goals for these different teams, and all those goals were different. So they were different parameters. They were very numeric. कि cost itna hona chahiye, quality has to be less than this, itna variance ho sakta hai, itna nahi hoga. But to agree to those goals took, I think, 2 or 3 sessions where they went back and forth. Then they co-created the goals within those parameters and said, okay, agar 10 nahi, to let's agree to 8.
So there was some change,
Oh,
little
there
bit
was,
of change.
yeah. Which was
That's how it was co-created. Yeah.
yes.
Thanks. Thank you.
Which was then signed off. So when we said, okay, before the coaching session, are we clear on where are we in terms of this whole assignment?
All
And
right.
what is the expectation coming from top? What is, happening on all sides? So it took a lot of time.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. Right? Low morale and motivation, like I said, the team was not connected at all, right? And then there were a lot of slippages on deadlines. Uh, although these people individually were doing very well in their respective functions, but here, when they came together as a team, the productivity was low because there was just no cohesiveness and there was just no communication happening. Right? So that was what we started with. Now, this was with this auto company. With this other advertising agency, and why I'm switching from here to there was just to show the paradox and similarities both. The advertising company was a smaller company, but and the teams were homogeneous. So you had the brand servicing team, you had the creative team, you had the copy team, and it was not a cross-functional team. It was more of a homogeneous team, that team 1, team 2, team 3. Here, the issue was very different, that they absolutely had no structure within the team, even to define what they wanted to achieve. In the sense, while they knew that brand servicing team had to interact with customers and this is what they had to work with, there was no accountability for any targets. There was no accountability for any deliverables. And the coaching mandate was four things. Can we get more collaboration? Can we get more communication within the team? Can we get the team to build their own identity in the organization? Now, since it's an advertising firm, the language that they spoke was very, very fluid and abstract. And here on the other side, it was all numbers, very objective, very concrete. So these are two ends of the spectrum that I've handled team coaching for. And both the teams, while there was no major differences in these problem statements, the nature of the coaching assignment was very different. Because for the advertising agency, the deliverables were more broad-based. They were, okay, so how can you interact more with the customers and make them feel that, they are wanted? Or how can you build a sustaining relationship with the creative team? How can we build interdepartment collaboration? Yes, Rajesh.
Sorry, I'm asking another question.
Please ask.
Yeah. So I wanted to actually understand, and that's why the question. See, as a business consultant, I've pretty much done the same in a similar, many similar situations
Yeah.
where the dictate comes from the seniors and the juniors don't agree to it, and then you make them say it, and then tell them that, okay, this is organization goal, and this is how you're important, and this is how you have to go about it. And then they some 80-90% agreement is there, and the balance 10% who are not happy, you take them aside and motivate, all that. So my question is, how is team coaching? And I did not know that I'm doing team. I was not team coaching was the word not there.
Yeah.
I did not know about it. And so, what is the difference? Maybe it is in the implementation. So I would like to understand.
It is.
What is the difference?
Yeah. It is. So I'll just come to that, Rajesh, in a minute.
Okay.
So this was the landscape, really, right? This was a landscape where there was a problem, and this was what it is. And when we move ahead, okay, let me just, yeah. So what happened in the coaching intervention is obviously you have the as is. Let's understand, where are you right now? Helping the team to setting, to achieve clear goals. Now, point 1 and 2 were really the pre-intervention phase, where there was a lot of back-end work. There was a lot of conversations, calls, meetings. And here we were not exposed to the team in that sense yet. We met them at a very broad level to understand what their side of the story was, what they were looking at from this intervention. But there was no interaction, or the coaching hadn't begun yet, right? Step 3 is when the coaching sessions actually began, which then followed the coaching framework, which was to say, so as a team, what is the overarching goal that you want to work with for the next 3 months, right? What is the goal that you want to achieve session by session, and in today, what you want to achieve? So then obviously they said, no, I think we are not on the same page as far as the goals go as a team. So then you follow the natural coaching process, and you kind of, but Rajesh, there's also the point that team coachings, especially, there is at least 30-40% of facilitation required, where you will have to nudge the team to follow a certain direction. So it's not pure play coaching. Yeah. So you may have the coaching, you may use all the competencies 3.1, for listening. So 3 and 8 are used very actively in terms of setting the goal, and the last is about what are the actions and all of that. जो बीच का part है, वहाँ पे my experience has been that there is a fair amount of facilitation which is required in helping the team to see what they are not seeing, right? So what we did for this auto company was very clearly, and since they wanted an agile methodology, they wanted the coaching sessions to happen every week. And mind you, these are all in-person sessions, right? So we were a team of 7 coaches handling 55 teams. So every week we would go 2 days, three days to this organization and spend the whole day. The first half of the day was really about understanding from the stakeholder. So we had a review mechanism where the stakeholder, the reviewer was also there, and they went through the goals, what happened, what didn't happen. And following that, we had the coaching sessions, which were about 1.5 hours per team. So every day post lunch, we did about 3 sessions per coach. And this went on for about 10 weeks. Yeah, so every week post the review with the stakeholders, the team would make some notes and say, okay, these are some of the actionables that we want to focus on. This is the support that we will need from the team. These are the barriers that are coming up in our way of achieving goals. Because the goals were then broken down into these 8-week goals for our ease of conducting the coaching and also to help the team to be focused week on week. Now, within these coaching sessions, let me tell you, the first 3 weeks were I wouldn't say disaster, but they were completely crazy because unko ek saath lana, just bringing them together to help them to understand so we had to start from what is coaching. Imagine in a group of 8 people, 4 people say, but listen, if you can't tell us what we are supposed to do, then why are you here? So we had to start from there. And although we said it again and again and again, that look, this is the scope of the coaching and this is what it is, I think people do look for solutions. And so to bring them into the mold of coaching took us 3 weeks. And from there on, from the 4th week onwards, I think what we saw, and I speak for myself here more, what I saw was that the amount of facilitation required became very less because the team themselves started asking each other questions on, hey, so you know what? Why do you think this is not happening for you? Or what do you think I can do to support you with this? You know, now that was a sign that the transformation in those people had started happening, both at the level of the goal and at the level of connectedness within themselves. So things like, and since they all came from different functions, and they were all seniors, I think they were all about easily 8-10 years experience within the organization and even some prior experience. So each of them, I think, realized that what problem they had or what barriers they thought they had was something that the other person had already been through or is going through or had a solution to it. So the whole interaction between the team increased and my role moved from being a facilitator to actually being a coach. And that took a while. So then my focus shifted to really asking them very, very important questions or very open-ended questions like, so what does this team want to do? Or what is the identity that you want to build within the organization? There are 55 teams. Why is this team different? Or what do you want to do to make it different? And they had also announced some awards, which were to be given at the end of the whole intervention as to the best team who achieved the goals. There was also that looking forward to winning that prize or that award. And the teams who did qualify for the awards were teams that transformed, I think, 180 degrees from where they started to where they went. And every week or the team themselves chose a leader who would lead the team in terms of, activity. So one of the tools that I used during this team coaching exercises were empty chair, used a lot of drama triangle and a bit of creative visualization as tools. So let's say you have the team and they say, okay, so 8 weeks down the line, where do you see this team? What is different in this team? So not too many exercises, but a couple of them, a couple of tools, which really help the team to visualize what they wanted to achieve at the end of that 8 weeks. So not the tools that we normally use for facilitation, but a lot of the coaching tools. Let's say you look at, if you were to fly on the wall and if you were to see 2 people in conflict, what would the fly on the wall say to this team? And what do you think needs to happen? Every week we had a review with the stakeholders, and it was that tight because the mandate was huge, the ask was huge. And so that went on for 8 weeks. there was also a lot of, not a lot of, but a couple of data points that we captured after each session. One was obviously from the coachee's point of view as to what they felt happened in the session, what worked well for them, what didn't they agree to in the whole coaching process. And the other data point that we captured during this whole intervention was what was happening to us as coaches. What were we struggling with? What was I not able to do in that session? And every week or every 15 days, we would have a huddle of the coaches and we would discuss these problems because we had a very homogeneity of these problems that sprung from every coach. So I think as a team of coaches, we use the team coaching principles as well, which helped us to really look at experiences of the others and say, you know what, let's try this. Yeah. Okay, so far? Yes, Rajesh.
So, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. That looks like that it's a little bit of facilitation, and then all the coaching, one-to-one coaching principles applied here, wherein you increase the awareness of the team as you do in one-to-one, and then enable them take good decisions. So why my question is like, why a special certification is required for team coaching? Why normal coaching is good enough?
What happens is that when there is a group, the dynamics are very different, Rajesh. So when you look at, so when I underwent the team coaching certification, we had a lot of exercises and case studies and live demonstrations of how you would do a team coaching assignment. So one-on-one may, the dynamics are very limited. And in a team coaching scenario, what happens is there could be one derailer in that whole group who comes up with a negative space of mind and it kind of disrupts the entire flow. And then the whole group tends to, how do you deal with that? So one is negative. How do you deal with people in the team who really, really are so diverse in their mindsets? And while the competencies may seem similar, Rajesh, when individual to team, you see that the ICF has also made very, very subtle differences and they've clearly earmarked why a team coaching competency, even on a 3.1, in an individual versus a team coaching is different. So there is that nuanced difference there, which in the program, you will see that there is a lot of role plays and exercises. And actually, what we had to do was we also had to do a couple of team coaching assignments and submit those to this institute, Kocharya, where I did it from. And so the whole process was very wholesome. It wasn't just, acha, abhi team coaching certification ho gaya, now you go and do it. There was a lot of action-oriented learning which helped us. And our cohort was big enough that we could have every person play the role of a coach for that cohort. So it helps, Rajesh, because while it seems similar, the dynamics are very different. And if there are more than 8, or if there are more than 10 people in a team, you need a co-coach. That's a mandate by ICF. So 2 people need to coach. Luckily for me, I have not been I've always coached teams where there is less than 10. So I've not worked with a co-coach, but sometimes you need a co-coach to observe, to switch roles, and to, because 2 people will then be able to handle that team of 14, 15 better. All right. Should I move on, Rajesh? Thanks. So what did we derive, or what did we achieve? And okay, for a minute, I'll just skip to the other case study where it was like that. Like I said, it was an advertising agency. The basic problem of creative people is that they tend to be, how do I put this? For want of a better word, they tend to be in their own world. And they very rarely look at corporate sort of procedures to, उनका faith उसमें बहुत कम रहता है. When you say that, oh, here is a coaching intervention which is aimed at increasing collaboration, morale, blah, 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 they completely shun you. And I face this. So for me, I had to tell them, look, I'm not going to do any coaching. I'm just going to have conversations with you all. You tell me what you want to speak about. What is it that you feel, or why do you think we're here? What do you want to take out of these 6 months that we are together? And can you tell me, um, how do you want me to be? So the whole, and here it was not week on week. Here it was once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks sometimes. But the whole structure of the coaching was as fluid as it was in a one-on-one coaching. The difference was that instead of one, there were 4 or 5 people in that team. The challenge also was that they struggled to articulate what the goal for the session was or what they wanted to achieve. And you had to do a lot of digging, a lot of communication to really bring that out. Because they come from a very different mind space. They're all very abstract. You even to make them sit in one place for an hour was very difficult. And I'm talking of 10 years, 12 years experience people. They're used to being in their own world because they're more creative, right? But in both these, yes, Ritu.
I have a very operational question that how do you manage in 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 8 people? I'm just thinking in my head कि वो पूरा 1-1.5 घंटा तो 8 लोगों की बातें सुनने में ही चला जाएगा. So how do you manage time that way?
हो जाता है Ritu. What happens is, like I said, the first 2 sessions or 3 sessions, you kind of take for them to trust you, for you to be comfortable with them, because um, and every coach goes through this, especially when there's a group of people, you at times feel cornered. कि, oh God, ये कौन आया हमको सिखाने आया है कोई. That's the realm that they come from. But when you are clear on the structure, like I said, when you start with the question, so what is it that you want to talk of today? And then you let those 8 people, and not everybody needs to speak at all time, Ritu. So you're not doing a one-on-one in those 8 people, right? You're looking at a larger context, slightly broader context, and using the power of the group to come up with answers for themselves. So let's say, especially in this advertising agency, like some of the questions were like, I find it very difficult to go to a client and present my case or to do a presentation. I just had to ask a question. Would anybody like to share what they did, or how we can give some feedback, or how we can help X?
Okay.
So wahan pe, then the discussion took over by them. Now all I had to do was to bring them back. So what are we learning from this? And how does this relate to the overall team goal of, say, having more client or increasing client retention? So it is a struggle, but also in between, what I do is I keep time checks. So every 20 minutes, if it's a 1.5 hour session, that we've got, let's say, half an hour to go, how would you like to use this half an hour to the maximum? And so the maximum time goes in competency 3 and competency 8, establishing what you want to achieve out of it, and then really crafting some action plans.
Okay.
And those action plans may time lagta hai because every one of them might have a different take on what they want to do. But so what I do is I use the board at times. Like I said, those times are when facilitation comes into play, Okay, so this is what you're saying. Now, out of these 8 things, what do you want to do as your top 3 things? Or what can you start immediately? But that
Got
is
it.
the challenge, Ritu. I understand, and it's a very valid point that sometimes you feel that time bahut kam hota hai. There are also times when I was doing this I'll just come to you, Sandeep, for this auto company, that at times there was nothing to do because the teams didn't even speak in the first 2 sessions. So 1.5 hour, I didn't even know what to say because they were just mum. They were so closed. So I've had both and I was wondering, when will this 1.5 hour, get over?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because see, when you ask, so what do you want to talk today? Or what do you want to achieve as a goal? There's silence. Because they don't know you and they don't trust you. It's session 1. So, yeah, Ritu, have I answered your question to some extent?
Yes, I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah. So Sandhya, like in one-to-one, the large focus is on the who, So as I understand from your description, it seems like in team coaching, a lot of focus is on the what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I'm looking for how is it really different from a seasoned facilitator compared to a newbie team coach.
So while I admit that there is a lot of focus on the what, there is also the discussion on who does this team want to be. So if you're a team, if you have one goal, if you have values that the team wants to live by, then who do you really want to be? Like I asked this team from this auto company, so who do you want to be 6 months down the line? Now there, they may not have a ready-made answer, but the minute you ask them, but they did a lot of thinking. In fact, so there I also gave them some work to do. Okay, so to answer your question, Sandeep, the difference is that again you here use the coaching methodology. You tend to use more of coaching, asking more open-ended questions. You collaborate. You are partnering with them. You are not above them, or you are not saying that, look, I will tell you what to do. It is still a coaching methodology which you use. You still use the coaching principles, and you enable the team to come up with being more self-aware or focusing on who they would like to be at the end of whatever time that intervention is. But honestly, the focus is probably skewed more in terms of the what, or the focus is definitely on what they want to achieve. The who tends to take a backseat in team coaching. That's been my experience. But still, if you adopt or if you implement the coaching methodology, I think a great deal of that can also be overcome.
Okay.
But you're right to I mean, I wouldn't deny that like I said, there is a fair bit of facilitation. So um, a newbie team coach, which is why I would say that it's always better to have a co-coach with you so that you don't really miss out on certain observations that's happening, because the dynamics and the interplay in the team, sometimes it's practically impossible for one coach to handle. Yes, Shailaja. Shailaja, you're on mute.
So it was interesting. You were talking about how, you asked that question, who do you want to be 6 months from now? So it sounds like a great question, but I mean, there's lots they can come up with. So what was your aim here? And what did you really, what was the outcome of that question? I mean, because you were mentioning previously that you wanted to know their values. So how did you tie the two up together, the identity part with the values part,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was to ask them, so who is this team really? Right? Now, questions like that tend to put the person completely on a backseat, because they've not been asked this question. So who are you as a team? What is your identity as a team? And they said, interestingly, and these were some of the commonalities that emerged during the session, where they said, oh, I think we want to be known as the best team. So then my next question was, what does best mean for you? Right? We want to be best in terms of our adherence to timelines, or so they had 3 parameters on which their goals were designed: time, cost, and quality. So they said, we want to be best in the term. So I said, then what is best? And when I asked them what is best, then they said, no, but somebody else from the team said, I still remember, they said, no, but there could be 10 people or 10 other teams who will still be best. So what is it that will differentiate us? This was asked by another person in the team. And there the person said, or the team sort of had a discussion and said, no, but you know what? I think what is more important is how we come out of this engagement as one team. So I said, when you talk of one team, what are some of the underlying principles that you want to establish for yourself as a team? Even after this project is over, let's say, what are some of the things that you want to really, really hold on to, even when you guys meet, right? And there they spoke about how, and interestingly, they said, you know what? We went on this customer visit to Jamshedpur or wherever, and they said, and they actually went as a team. And they said during this coaching, or if this coaching session hadn't happened, we would be still going, but we would go differently. But here we all said, let's go together and let's stay together. Let's kind of. And when they came back from that trip, they said that one of the things that we know that we want to be different at is that we want to be there for each other. So these discussions, Shailaja, might happen or might not, or this level of awareness, I think I was just lucky, and probably I asked the right question at the right time because they were going through that whole space. So the values emerged from themselves. They said, no, we want to be there for each other. We want to help each other. Now, again, I said, so what will that mean for you? When you said you want to help each other, how does that helping look for you? What will you do differently? And thereon those, so here's where, Sandeep, here is where it's different from a facilitator, because you're still asking questions about the who also, that how will it be different, what will it look like for you, or what needs to, or how will you be perceived by your other stakeholders in the organizations. One of the differences in team and individual is there is also a lot of systemic interconnectedness that team coaching interventions have with the rest of the organizations, because they're going to be interacting with a lot of other teams as well. So how does this team want to be seen by the rest of the organizations? And interestingly, once you sort of ease into that discussion, the answers that you get initially may sound very, very transactional, but 8th week, 9th week, the answers that were coming from the team were more on the who, on the identity. And this was a process. Yes, Rajesh.
So, Sandhya, I had a thought when Ritu asked that question, how do you handle so many people in 1 hour? And the thought was that in a team coaching, probably, and that where we read in the ICF site and all, that you have to treat the team as one entity.
Yes.
So you don't have to ask you, Sandeep, or you, Rajesh, what do you think about it? What does the team think about it?
What does the team think of it?
And that's how you are actually coaching one person. So that was a thought.
Absolutely.
But the question is that how do you handle that? You mentioned that one of the person in advertising agency said that I have a problem presenting. So do you handle individual issues also?
No. So what sometimes I do is I say that, is it okay if I use your example to demonstrate something to the rest of the group? So because it's impossible to go through everyone's individual goals. But sometimes, Rajesh, what I also do is I have a one-on-one chat with a few people who want some help, post that, which is a quick 10-minute chat or whatever.
Yeah.
But वो उस coaching session के बीच में करना impossible है, because you lose track of it. It'll go to a different direction completely.
Yeah.
So one example for the benefit of everyone else, and so you ask the team, one, is the person okay with me doing a kind of a quick coaching intervention with you? And then I ask the team, is it okay if I use this example for the benefit of all of you? Do I have your okay? And then you do a quick session, but not everyone. And that's just a play by ear kind of a thing that you do. Yeah. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah. Sandhya, in the auto example or case study, you said you had multiple smaller teams or groups and the goals were thrashed out.
Yeah.
Now, and let's say they were on these quality, cost, and these kind of parameters. Now, how do you converge all these 8 or 10 teams further?
But what do you mean by converge?
Converge. So each of these smaller teams of 8 to 10 people, they would have, say, suppose they said quality should be 80 or 8 on 10.
Yeah.
And the other team would have said, say, 10 or 9. Now, how do you further converge them? Because it's a single organization goal, right?
So each team had a different goal, a different product line, a different different part to work on. So while the cost, timeline, and quality, the names were the same, the individual parameters of each team were very different, and they had different reviewers. They had different managers whom they had to report to. So it was not a homogeneous, what do you call, or they need not converge as well. They were all different teams.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
not that a team 1, 2, 3 had to then merge with 4, 5, 6 and then aisa nahi tha. They were all independent teams with different, but there was also at some point in time they had to, it was, some teams had to collaborate or talk to the other teams for uh, on how they would integrate. But even that integration ke liye, those parameters, the goal parameters were very different, and there was no merging of that, so to say.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. Okay. So I think I'm mindful of time. So what were some of the lessons learned very quickly? The initial scoping has to be very, 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 very crisp. Has to be, in fact, the more that you spend time on the initial scoping of the assignment, it's okay, because you're just ensuring that you start off with a lot of clarity. Throughout the coaching intervention, how are you and this is like you do in individual coaching as well, but team coaching may, I guess, my experience has been that so even for this other organization that I did, uh, uh, which was a huge network agency which combined with a huge IT firm, and there we had to coach, or I had to coach, two groups of leaders who were AVP level people, moving to a VP level. Again, they all came from individual roles, and they all had their individual roles, and it was a group coaching, not a team this thing. But even there, we had to touch back with the stakeholder, with the sponsor, to see, hey, you know what, is there something that needs to be adjusted? Is there something that needs to be corrected? Or is there something that we need to do more of, less of? So regular feedback and adjustments to the entire process with the stakeholder and the sponsor. I think the fourth point is something that I struggled with a lot myself, and I'm being very honest here. Coming from a consulting space, I find it very difficult to say that I don't know. So for me, to be able to let go of that I know it to I don't know it, and it still comes up at times. I think the MCC journey was very helpful for me in letting go of that whole space and being okay with not knowing. But even during the coaching assignments, sometimes just being authentic and saying, I don't know the answer to this, or I don't know, you tell me. And anyways, you're not supposed to give answers. But let's say you are asked a question and you say, I don't know. Let's see what we can come together, or let's see what we can arrive at together. Yeah. There is a lot of facilitation, like I said, in the team coaching. What are the stakeholders and sponsors saying? How are they reviewing it? Building champions. This is a huge thing. And I think this has worked beautifully for me when even in a team coaching assignment, and you find these champions who will be then who will champion this cause within the team and also with the rest of the teams, that, hey, you know what, this is great, let's do this. So they're also come up as leadership material, where they take on the onus of saying, hey, you know what, I will get all this put together in a note and I will send this. So small things like that. How are they championing the whole cause of coaching within the team? I've had experiences where people have said, but we don't know then what is your role as a coach. And somebody else has said in the team uh, but that's exactly what it is. I didn't give the answer. It was given by somebody else who clearly is championing the cause of coaching. And the last one is, especially for huge organizations, I would say that, have a team of internal coaches. Work with the organization to see how you can build internal coaches who can then set up the coaching culture with the rest of the organization. Now, this is again a choice that you give. There are two ways to look at it. One is you say, okay, internal coaches coaching karenge, to hum kya karenge? But it becomes beneficial for the organization when they have a team of trained coaches who can then look at coaching, and then you can step in and say, hey, I probably will do an audit every 3 months and just do a quick recap with the coaches and see where they're going. We've also done a few so I've also been part of a few organizations where I've trained their internal teams to be? How can they have a coaching methodology? How can they have a coaching mindset? That's something that I do with every team coaching. At the end of the coaching, my one ask is that, can you all, or how would it look if you guys were to adopt this coaching methodology for your teams? And that is proven to be very helpful for organizations and as a fulfilling outcome of the whole intervention. Last slide. I think some of the challenges are, like I said, are about managing diverse personalities. Ensuring engagement is very, very huge, because if it's a team, they tend to get distracted. They tend to get, and oh my God, if you're having a virtual team coaching session, God save you, because people will be off video. You will see them taking calls right in the middle of the however many times you tell them that you've got to be video on, phone away, no distractions. It's a Herculean task to ensure that they are engaged in that 1.5 hours. I've had a tough time with this organization where I did 7 sessions of online coaching for the sales teams, which were across India. And I said, this is just not happening. When nothing happens. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Measuring ROI, again, scope it out well and see what you set out to do and what is it that you're going to be measured for. Is there a chat? Okay. All right, Ritu. Thank you. Bye. Sure. What will you consider? You will consider. So I always ask, even if there are team coaching team coaching goals, how are they aligning with the organizational goals at the right time? There are times that I have asked, or you ask the organization to choose from a panel of coaches, and that's just so that the team feels comfortable. If I feel that the team is not yet trusting me, there has been a case where I've gone to the stakeholder and the sponsor and said, look, I don't think the team is okay with me, and I'm okay to kind of, drop off. And so that's also happened. I think that's your own internal system which works for you, and you do the right thing. This is just a recap. Define objectives. So team coaching the thing that works is when people participate and you're just there, you're just nudging them. You ask a question and you let the thing unfold. Yeah.
So Sandhya,
Yes, Rajesh.
This is very challenging when the cameras are off.
Tell me about it.
And I wonder how you handle them, because training वेनिंग में ठीक है, लोग कैमरा ऑफ कर देते हैं, तो there are few people who are interested and attentive, so you address them, and others also. But in team coaching where you have to discuss deep, how do you do that? What is the trick? What is
I have stopped the session. I've ensured that the HR person comes on call, comes online, but see, these guys are all, so if you're talking about a sales team, the sales team will keep getting customer calls. I say no, but then the coaching will not, and they're spending huge amounts of money. But see, I don't know, this is not a straight answer to that. The only thing is you keep pushing back and saying, no, we want videos on, we want engagement, or we want the person to be completely active. I've stopped the sessions there and said, this will not work. So I've pushed
as a
back.
business leader myself in corporate, I've ensured that my team or the others team, in all the functions team, if they're getting trained, no phones inside.
Yeah.
And inform everybody that such and such time you'll not be available.
Absolutely.
Some strict rules, I think, are very important.
Very important, Rajesh. And I've faced the brunt of it just as early as a month ago when, I had to cut short a call and say, this will not work. I'm sorry. I don't want to waste your money and my time, both. It's a lot of investment going down the drain. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah. The irony is that in offsites, no such calls come.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is just a slide that Akanksha kind of wanted me to put up for Abhyudaya, and this is some of the team coaching certifications and programs that they have. I'm sure you all have access to this. So this is something that I had to share as my experience, as my learnings, and I'm still learning. I think I'll stop sharing. So for me, every team coaching session is extremely. I still get butterflies in my stomach because I don't know what to expect in terms of, the audience. I don't know what is going to unfold in those. But I've also been very happy to, at the end of it, where something where the team really feels empowered and the team really feels that something they've moved from level A to level B, and that is, I think, and the magnitude of that, because it will impact those many more people in the organization, is something that gives me the joy to continue with it. So that was all that I had to share. I'm 4 minutes over time, but I'm open for any questions.
We've asked a lot of questions. In fact, I have asked a lot of questions. So I had to
Great to
only
see you,
thank you.
Rajesh.
It was a very, very learning experience. I had some idea about team coaching, but the way you addressed and the poise and the clarity that you have is amazing. So thank you so much,
Thank you,
Sandhya.
Rajesh.
It's a pleasure attending this program.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you so much. No more questions. Are we okay to log out?
Thank you, Sandhya. See
Bye,
you.
Shailaja.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Bye.